think I'm getting old, guys.
No, you're not.
I made it halfway over here and I was like, oh, I forgot my notes in my Bible. Well, yeah, maybe. But I still usually don't forget. I try not to forget things. What age am I? Guess. 45! 28?
33!
800! Alright. Don't let all the gray hair fool you, okay? I'm 32. 32. Alright. Hopefully you got a Bible, a pen, and outline if you want to take notes and follow along with the scriptures and things like that. If not, that's totally cool. I have a question to start out with tonight. And I want you guys to be honest, be real. And I'll ask for your input. What would life be like without friends? Boring, lonely, what else? Really depressing, what else? There would be nothing. I don't know if I'd go that far, but it would be unfriendshipy. Okay. It would be what? Loner? Okay. You might be smarter than you are now. Okay. 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 Anybody else? What would life be like without friends? Awful. Normal. I don't believe you. Because you have friends sitting right next to you.
Oh.
Yeah. It would suck. Spoken like a middle school, yeah. Alright, yeah. You wouldn't be a Christian. Wow, that's amazing. That's good stuff. Okay. So friendships, I don't think I really even need to say this, but friendships are a big deal. The friendships are huge. Tonight we are continuing our series, Crossroads, Navigating the Roadblocks of Life. And this series is all about how to make it through the difficulties and the struggles that come up in life. Anybody have difficulties or struggles? Yeah, everyone. Yes, everyone. Doesn't matter who you are, where you were born, who your family is. Everyone has difficulties and struggles. Now, I want to do some review from last week, because I did not speak. Robbie spoke last week. Kind of look like him. We're kind of chubby brown guys. I want to hear what we talked about and what were his 3 different things he talked about as far as this topic. If you get them all right, you get the rest of this bag of lifesavers, which there's quite a few in there, back there. Of what? The good, the bad, and the ugly of what? Not life.
Ooh.
Yeah. The good, the bad, the ugly of family. Yes, good job. Yes. Last week we talked about the fact that one of the obstacles of life could come with your family. We go through a lot of hard times with our families. And so Robbie talked about the good, enjoy the good, thank God for the good. But it's not always good. Sometimes there's bad that happens in the family. How do you navigate that? And then talk about the ugly. And he talked about the situation he went with his family and with his dad. I remember his dad got in a fight with his brother. I was like, okay, that was crazy. So if you were not here last week, go online, jhwildside.org, click on the video messages, and watch it on YouTube. It's good stuff. But this week we're going to talk about friendships, because friendships, like I said, they're a big deal. And so on your outline right there, the main thought I want us to get tonight, and you've probably heard me say this before, is that our friendships will determine the direction and the quality of our lives. Okay? This is the main thing I want you guys to get tonight, is that our friendships, okay, who you choose to be friends with, the people you hang out with all the time, they will determine the direction and the quality of our lives. Now, I don't just say that because I'm super wise and smart. I actually get that from the Bible, and the Bible talks a lot about this. So the main verse for tonight, and the memory verse, if you want to get something free from the snack shack, is Proverbs chapter 13, verse 20. If you have one of those little Bibles, we're going to be in Proverbs, which is just about in the middle of your Bible after Psalms. In Proverbs 13:20, it says this: It says, whoever walks with the wise will become wise. Whoever walks with fools will suffer harm. So that verse tells us who you hang out with determines who you become, determines how you act. That's why the main thought is our friendships will determine the direction and the quality of our life. They're going to determine where we go, the direction your life is headed, and also the quality of your life, whether it's good or bad, what ends up happening in our lives. If you're there in Proverbs chapter 13, if you just go back one chapter to chapter 12, and then you look at verse 26, there's another good verse that talks about this. Verse 26 says, the godly give good advice to their friends, the wicked lead them astray. I hope you guys are looking this up. Most of you guys are using the Bibles just like as a clipboard, kind of. It'd be cool to look these verses up. And then one last verse that my dad quoted to me all the time as I was growing up is 1 Corinthians 15:33. And this verse says that bad company corrupts good morals or good character. My dad told me that, told my brother that, told my sister that growing up. He said, be careful who you hang out with. Be careful who you hang out with. So, we're talking about obstacles. We're talking about difficult situations in our lives. And here's the thing. Many obstacles and difficulties in our lives are sometimes a result of the friends that we choose. The friends that hang out with us. If you've been in Wildside for a while, you might have heard this story of when I was in middle school, I did not have the best friends. And there was this friend named Chris, and I hung out with him, and he was not a very good guy. He used really bad language. He didn't care about school. He got in fights all the time. He thought he was just the most amazing person. And make a long story short, one day we were hanging out at this abandoned school, and he was throwing rocks at the windows. And I was with him, and I wasn't not getting involved, but then he started egging me on. He started telling me, hey, pick up a rock, come on, throw it. And I kept telling him, no, no, no. And eventually, the peer pressure got to me, and so I threw a rock. But I didn't throw it out the window. So I kind of felt a little bit better about that. But based on hanging out with him, it kind of led me down a path I did not want to go. There was a lot of peer pressure from him, and eventually I did decide not to be friends with him anymore. And that was kind of weird, and we never spoke to each other again, and when we saw each other at school, you kind of like try not to look at each other, that kind of thing. So it was hard, but I kind of learned my lesson. I did not want to head down the same path that he was headed on. I did not want to get involved in the things that he was getting involved in, and I knew that that was going to happen to me if I continued to be friends with him. Because again, our life is big time dependent on who we hang out with. But why is that? Why is that? If you have your outlines, I want to share 3 quick things. Why do our friendships affect us so much? Why do they help us become who we're going to be? Well, first of all, our friendships are often more important than our convictions. Everyone in here, we all have convictions. We all have different beliefs. We all have values, morals that we want to live by. But oftentimes, our friendships are more important than those things. Anybody ever did something wrong because their friend told them to? Yeah, I think all of us. Not you, that's good. I think, I don't know what it is. We know it's wrong in our head, right? When the person tells us, we're like, oh, I shouldn't do that. That's bad. What if I get caught? Oh, no. Blah, blah, blah. I might get a detention. It rattles off in our brain, all this stuff. We know we shouldn't do it. But then our friend keeps saying, come on. It's not going to be that bad. They keep talking to us. And we're like, I don't know what to do. I'll just do it. And then after we're like, I shouldn't have done that. Oh, my gosh. See, we have these convictions, we have these beliefs, we have these rules that we want to live by. But oftentimes, our friendships are more important than those. Our friendships override all those things that we believe in, all those things that we've been taught. Secondly, why we do this, our friends are often more influential than our parents. Our friendships are often more influential than our parents. I don't know if you know this, but there was a study long, long, long time ago, even before I was born, back in the 1960s, okay? Back in the 1960s. And they did a survey, of the top 3 influences in a teenager's life. Number 1, parents. Number 2, teachers. Why do you say uh-oh? And number 3 was ministers or church people, okay? Which okay, was good. You do that study today, friends, number 1. Guess what number 2 is? What? Media, yeah. So TV, radio, movies, all that stuff online. Yeah. And 3rd is parents. Yeah. So today, friendships are more influential than our parents. And the thing is parents are our authority. You guys are middle school students. Your parents are supposed to take care of you. Your parents are supposed to teach you. Your parents are supposed to train you up, help you to become an adult, to live a good life, to be a productive member of society. That's what your parents are trying to do. They want to influence you towards good things, I hope. And so if our friendships are more important than our parents, watch out. Watch out. So our friendships are often more important than our convictions, more influential than our parents. And this one hurts me too. Our friendships are often more pursued than God. If you think about how much time you spend with your friends as opposed to how much time you spend with God, I bet you your friends went out. I'm not just talking about while outside, I'm not just talking about coming to church. I'm talking about your one-on-one time with God, whether it's reading your Bible, praying, maybe listening to some good music, or journaling. I don't know, whatever you do to spend time with God. Our friendships are more pursued than God. We think about our friendships more, we spend more time with them. And here's the thing. If we pursue our friendships more than God, that's going to ultimately hurt us overall. Because if things are not right with God, then things are probably not going to be right with your parents. If things are not right with your parents, then things are probably not going to be right with your convictions, with your morals and your beliefs. So it influences everything. It affects everything else. So hopefully you can kind of see that friendships are important. They affect us big time. And they're often more important, more influential, and more pursued than God, our parents, or our convictions. So I wanted to spend a little bit of time. What is at the heart of this? Why do we do this? What is it that's happening inside of our minds and our hearts that causes us to think about our friends more than other things that are very important to us? Why are friendships more important? It's this one word, acceptance. Acceptance. We crave acceptance. I mean, like, we literally need it. We can't live without it. And because we crave acceptance, on the other hand, we do all that we can to avoid rejection. We do everything we can to avoid rejection. We will do almost anything to be loved and to be liked, to be accepted by our friends, to even have friends. And this is not a bad thing. We were created by God to be in relationships. We were created by God to be with people, to love people, to be loved. So that's okay. But when acceptance and these friendships become more important than God, and more important than parents, and more important than doing what's right, then we get in trouble. We get ourselves in trouble. It's all about acceptance. It's all about fear of rejection. That is why we have these friendships, and that's why they're so important. But how can they affect us so much? Well, because acceptance, it leads to influence. When we're accepted by somebody, they can influence us. We're actually wide open to their influence. Why is that? Because when we feel accepted, when we feel loved, when we feel cared about, when we feel like we have a friend, we don't want to lose it. We don't want to lose it. We like it too much. It helps us feel better about ourselves. We think it makes us worthy. these people become the most important thing to us in our lives. And we end up looking up to them. And we end up trying to be like them. Because we think if we can be just like them, they're going to like us more. If we can be just like them, they're going to hang out with us more. Right? I don't know about you, but I've changed my style of clothes before based on who I was hanging out with. I've changed the music I liked based on who I was hanging out with. I changed the music and movies or the TV shows that I watched based on the friends because I wanted to talk with them about it, right? They were all talking about the show, so I wanted to watch the show so I could talk about it with them. You know, it all goes together. And so when someone accepts us, it leads to them influencing us. It leads to them changing us. We want to be just like them. We change who we are for them. And here's the thing. Those friends might not be a good influence on us. They may be influencing us away from God, away from our parents, away from our convictions. Basically, our friends could lead us to evil. Like just is the way to sum it up. Our friends might lead us to evil. And I think you guys know this by now. We are to avoid evil. That's what God tells us. We are to avoid evil. We shouldn't be like evil people. We shouldn't act like evil people. So what can I do? What should I do, Isaac? Okay, I hear all these things about friendships being important and causing obstacles in my life. And yeah, I think in my life I have made my friends really, really important, more important than God, more important than my parents, more important than what I believe in. Okay, what should I do? What should I do? What's the whole point of this? How can I apply this to my life? One simple sentence. It's hard to do, but think about this. This is what God wants you to do. This is what we want you to do here at Wildside. Be careful about who you surround yourself with. Just be careful. Be careful about who you surround yourself with. When we think about our friendships, sometimes we don't even choose our friends. Actually, more often than not, our friends choose us. Whether we go to a new school, whether it's the next grade, whether it's people on our sports teams or in our classes, often it's the first person that comes and talks to us. First person that is nice to us, that starts a conversation with us. Oftentimes our friends choose us. And because we're starved for attention, we're starved for affection, we want to be liked, we allow ourselves to be friends with those people. And sometimes it could be almost anyone. Sometimes we don't know enough about them. We don't know if they're into bad things or whatever, but we start being friends with them. And like I said before, we try to be like them. We change ourselves. Things happen. Well, like I said, if they are bad influences on us, then we need to avoid them. Now, I'm not saying to be a jerk to them and never speak to them ever again. That's not what I'm saying. But you need to be careful about how often you hang out with them and what you do when you're around them. Hanging out still in the book of Proverbs, chapter 4. We're going to read 2 verses, 14 and 15. This tells us what we should do. Proverbs 4, 14 and 15. And Proverbs was written by the wisest guy ever to live, so it's pretty smart. He says this in verse 14, "Do not do as the wicked do, or follow the path of evildoers. Avoid their haunts. Turn away and go somewhere else." That's kind of hard. Avoid evil people. Do not do as the wicked do. Don't follow their example. Don't get caught up in what they're doing. And it says avoid their haunts. What does that make you think of? Haunts. Ghosts, right? That's someone bothering you all the time. Someone say, "Hey, you should do this." Yeah. Turn away and go somewhere else. got to be careful about who we surround ourselves with. One other verse, 2 Corinthians chapter 6. Now these verses are often used when we're talking about dating someone. But I believe that these verses also apply to our friends. 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verses 14 through 16. It says, "Don't team up with those who are unbelievers. How can goodness be a partner with wickedness? How can light live with darkness? What harmony can there be between Christ and the devil? How can a believer be a partner with an unbeliever? And what union can there be between God's temple and idols?" So Paul here is saying, be careful. Don't partner up with people that are unbelievers. Now again, we're not saying put yourself in a box and never talk to somebody that's like not a Christian. I'm not saying that. He's not saying that. He's saying don't partner up, don't team up, don't date someone, don't be best friends with someone who's an unbeliever, because they're probably going to lead you down the wrong path. Be very, very careful. And I found this proverb, a southern proverb. It's going to be there on the screen. If you sleep with dogs, you are going to get fleas. Think about that with friends. Not that your friends have fleas. Maybe they do, I don't know. But this is just another way of saying, be careful where you hang out. Be careful who you hang out with. Be careful how much time you're hanging out with them. Be careful what you're doing when you're with them. They will rub off on you. You will become like them. And somebody's like, no, I'm not. I'm not going to become like them. I remember growing up, my brother, he hung out with some bad people. And my dad would always tell him, you're going to become like them. He started dressing like them. Started wearing baggy pants, his white shirt, started doing the little, the walk, all this stuff. And even though he told my dad, I'm not going to become like them, don't worry, blah, 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 sooner or later it happened. It happened. We don't think they influence us. We don't think it's that big of a deal to hang out with certain people. It is. It is. It is a very, very big deal. And I guarantee you, if you talk to any of your leaders, they'll tell you the same thing. In middle school and high school, who they hang out with, it was a big deal. It affected their life and who they became and what they did. So I'm not standing up here saying avoid all non-Christian people. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying be careful about who you choose to be your best friends, who you choose to spend the most amount of time with. Because like that proverb says, if you sleep with dogs, you're going to get fleas. Who you hang out with, you're going to become. They're going to affect you. Like I said at the beginning, our friendships will determine the direction and the quality of our lives. So here's a question to ask yourself when it comes to your friendships. It's a thought for the week. Do your friends help or hurt your relationship with God? And anytime I talk about friendships, I always ask this question. It's the same question I ask all the time. Because if you answer this question honestly, it's pretty easy to decide who your friend should be. If you just ask this question. So I want you to think about your life right now. Think about who you spend the most amount of time. Your best friends. The people closest to you. The people that you share everything with. The people that you play video games with all the time. The people that you're on Facebook all the time with, talking. And et cetera, et cetera. Are they helping your relationship with God? Or are they hurting your relationship with God? Are they pulling you towards God? Or are they pulling you away from God? And that answer to that question will help you to decide what you should do next. I'm not saying ditch them. I'm not saying kick them to the curb. I'm just saying you might have to be a little more careful about how much time you spend with them if they are pulling you away from God. Because God needs to be most important in our lives. Yes, I know friendships are important. I know we don't want to be a loner. I know we want to hang out with people. We want to have a life. We want to do fun things. But God needs to be most important in our lives. I was reading some articles, and Any of you guys Duck Dynasty fans? Yeah? Okay. Sadie Robertson, the young lady. Sadie Robertson, she just came out in an article that says fame is not an excuse to lose your faith. And she talked about Miley Cyrus, Justin Bieber, and the list can go on. But there's a lot of people who proclaimed Christ and proclaimed that they were a Christian and they follow God, and then they got famous, and they just went off the deep end. And so this article was about that, because they were asking her, is that going to happen with you? And she said, fame is not an excuse to lose your faith. Which is awesome. And I just want to read this quote. She says this, she says, I think people use fame as an excuse to lose their faith, Robertson told Fox 411. And listen to this. Faith is obviously my number one priority, and I think you need to put God at the top of everything you do. That is what she said. She said, I think you need to put God at the top of everything you do, and that includes your friendships. That includes your friendships. And I know we want love and acceptance from people. And if you struggle with that, and that makes you do bad decisions, and makes you have bad friends, then I will tell you this. You need to accept God's unconditional love. You have to accept God's acceptance of you first. And when you know who you are in Him, and you know how He feels about you, and how He loves you, and how He accepts you unconditionally, that'll allow you to not worry so much about whether or not other people accept you. So start with Him, accept His unconditional love, and then ask Him for His help in determining who should be your friends. Ask Him for His help with your friendships. We all want friends, we all need friends, but don't settle. Okay, don't settle. Don't be close friends with just anybody. Choose wisely. Choose wisely. Your friends, if they're good friends, they will love you just as you are. They will accept you just as you are, and they will want what's best for you. That's how to pick good friends. You look at that question we asked during the mingle, what number one quality are you looking for in a friend? Well, these are two things. Your friend accepts you just as you are, and they want what's best for you. Not what's best for them, they want what's best for you. And so they got your back. And they are going to be watching out for you. And they're not going to lead you astray. They're going to lead you towards what's good. And so hopefully, those good friends, those best friends, are people here or people that believe in Jesus, because they will lead you to Jesus. They will help you to follow Jesus. So that's my recommendation for you as far as navigating the obstacles of life when it comes to friendships. Ask yourself the question, do your friends help or hurt your relationship with God? Next week, I'm really excited about next week. Next week, we're going to talk about the obstacles of busyness, stress, and worry. Anybody busy and stressed out? Worried about stuff? Yeah. And that stuff can just be a huge obstacle in your life. That'll just stop you cold in your tracks. So I hope that you'll come back next week as we wrap up the series talking about that stuff that we all go through. I'm going to go ahead and pray. The guys are going to come back up here to lead us in another song. As always, there's the prayer table, there's the Q&A table where you can ask a question. Our question and answer night is coming in 2 weeks. And then have a few minutes with God. Let me pray. God, we thank you so much for tonight. Thank you for everyone here and the fun we were able to have with lifesavers and toothpicks. And also the fun we're able to have with our friends. And God, we just thank you for the friends that you've given us. And God, I just pray that tonight we were reminded of something, or we were taught something about how important our friends are and how careful we need to be about who we surround ourselves with. So God, help us this week to think about our friendships, to really prioritize what we're looking for in our friends. And God, may we put you first in all things. God, may we make sure to accept your love, to accept your forgiveness, to accept the way you think about us first. And as a result, live our lives knowing that we are loved and accepted by you, and not necessarily going out there to find love and acceptance through friendships, even though that's a good thing for us, God. But just help us to live our lives for you. Help us to just really ponder this, God, and just really not become like our friends if they're leading us down the wrong path. So God, as we spend a few minutes singing and writing these cards and just thinking about this message, make it real in our lives, God. Maybe bring to mind someone we need to talk to or a decision we need to make. So God, we just thank you for everything, and thank you for tonight, and may we just finish out Wildside really strong, singing to you and thinking about you. We pray all these things in your name. Amen.
Chains be broken.